All right, let's go Jared and then Mitch.
Coach, sounds like you were there in the room, so you probably heard me talking to your boys about turnovers and takeaways. Wanted to ask about finding the right balance. You want your guys to be ball hawks and go try and rip it out, but at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice big plays or giving up extra yardage. How do you make sure your guys are doing the right thing as far as when to go for those takeaways?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't listening to the interview. I was back there eating chips and stuff. But I think there's really not just a cut and dry answer for it. I mean, it's everything's really situationally. There's so much when you're talking about the game of football that just tactical football comes into play. And so I think every play on defense is meant to there's elements of trying to get a takeaway and get the ball back, and every play on offense there's elements of trying to score. And so even when you're throwing 3-step on offense, even when you're dropping 8 on defense, there's just the scheme of everything is really kind of has its strengths and has its weaknesses, but there's always times to try to amp things up. And so I think as we should try to control things on the coaching side of aggression and where we think we can probably pick and choose our times to be a little bit more aggressive, and where we think it's just not worth it. There's just some tactical things that go into play when you're talking about that. But I think there's always elements of trying to get the ball back with even with more conservative plays that you have.
I asked the guys about the turnover props. BYU's joined the group with the turnover belt. What does that do? What are your thoughts as far as the kind of highlighting a takeaway like that?
Yeah, I think the belt's a cool idea. It's I don't think it's the end all for takeaways. I think it's just a great way for us to have fun and Kalani is about the boys bringing juice on the sideline and having fun. I think it's just another thing that adds to the culture of us trying to stay loose on the sidelines and have fun. You see it all over the country. You've seen it for several years now where people have certain things that they do. That's just one of the things that I think adds to the fun that the boys have on the sideline.
Coach, Keenan brought a lot to you guys, both on the field and off. What maybe makes Ben Bywater the right guy to fill those shoes at this moment?
Yeah, Ben's done a phenomenal job just prepping himself, and he's come a long way with the shoulder injury that he had last year, and just his body, the way that it looks last year versus it does now. I mean, coming off his mission and prepping himself and working hard towards it, and it's the same type of growth that Keenan had when he was, Keenan had a shoulder injury as well that he kind of fought through, and you have a young guy that puts in the time during the off season, and when their number's called, and gives them an opportunity to show up. And Ben really has had a very, very similar path to Keenan in just becoming the guy. And now we're going to need him to step up. And I know he's ready for the challenge. And Keenan's going to be alongside him the whole way to help out and coach him up and do all those things. But Ben certainly deserves and earned the right to step in and try to fill in for Keenan.
A quarter of the season's already in the books. These weeks, once one goes down, and they keep flying through. And I'm curious, with a quarter of the season in the rearview mirror, what maybe is a strength of your defense that you feel pretty good about, and maybe an area that you want to still continue to see some improvement in the coming games and months?
Yeah, really love the way that the energy and passion that they're playing with. I mean, the support that they're playing with, as far as just the buying into the culture that Kalani's had, and I think that's something that we can ride the wave of the energy and the juice that brings in. And We're banged up right now. We've got a lot of guys that are nicked up. We've, obviously lost Keenan for the rest of the year, but we've got a lot of guys that can step up and bring that same passion and energy to keep things moving. I mean, it's been a crazy year to have all these home games, and not have to leave the state of Utah when we travel next week. And I think with that, being able to play at home and having the Cougar Nation there in the stadium, just all that energy. And there's the players feed off of it, and the ones that we're asking to show up and fill in for the shoes of those that are getting banged up and sacrificing their bodies in the previous 3 games. I think those guys will do a good job because of that.
All right, let's go Jay and then Sean.
Ilaisa, Ben just told us that he was recruited off a rugby film because he was injured most of his senior year of high school. What do you recall about that? And what did you see that made you guys want to offer him from that film?
Yeah, it's we're familiar. I'm familiar with the game of rugby. There's a skill set that you look for with certain players. I mean, he was a phenomenal running back when he had film playing football, but his ability to play rugby as well. I mean, he was a tall athlete that could run, and that's really when we're recruiting. That's one of the things that we're looking at is recruiting tall and recruiting fast, and he filled both of those requirements for us. And then you try to recruit him smart, which he was a really intelligent person in the classroom and took care of his grades. Had the aspirations and plans to go and serve a mission, which checked another box for us. And so everything really, if you hear some of us talking about recruiting, sometimes we don't really care what the film looks like. They've got to be tall enough. They got to be fast enough. They got to be smart enough. And the classroom is really an indicator for us to recruit a kid like that. And Ben, along with a lot of other players that we're looking for, they all fit that. And so they're the kind of kids that we feel like we can develop.
Coach, I'll jump in, and I want to ask you about kind of the first touch, if you will, of defense in most games, and maybe that's just the former long snapper in me because I love my specialists. But it feels like you guys have a punter right now who's a really big weapon defensively. I mean, what's it do for you guys on defense to have a guy who can just bomb a ball 75, 80, 83 yards down the field the way that Ryan Rico can?
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And it's huge for us to have, right? Here in the last 3 years, we've lived the nightmare of a guy that's only punting 15 yards, you know what I mean? And so for somebody to do that, to flip the field, I mean, when you're just looking at it statistically, the percentages of the amount of points an offense is going to get depending on where they start on the field, I mean, it just flips it. It changes and in your favor. Rico's been huge for us, and that's it's been unbelievably huge for us on defense to have that kind of field advantage.
All right, any other questions for Coach? All right, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's it for today. Does anyone have any questions?